Alright guys, this is my video of the Hawke Vantage 2-7. Alright, there's a good close-up look at the specs that are on the end of the box. As you can see, it's a lot easier to read than have it read too, so there's all the specs that come with the scope. Alright guys, and here's a shot that shows the scope caps that come with the scope, and it also comes with one of those little scope lens cleaners. And all in all, it's pretty quality packed. With the foam inserts that are in the box, there's no damage to it of any kind. And here's a good look at the full-length scope. As you can see, it's very short, very attractive. It has a really nice matte finish. And I've got to say, there's just something about it that I like. The screw-on caps are metal. Everything about it feels solid built. Everything about it screams quality, especially for this price point. Alright, here's a quick look and an up-close look at the eyepiece and the magnification adjustment. The eyepiece is quite firm, but turns very easily. So does the magnification adjustment. It's firm, but turns quite smoothly. The good part about that for an air gun is it stays put. Alright guys, once again, my little dog Bella is going to try to steal the show. So I just wanted to go over a couple of features of the scope. The adjustable objective, the numbers that are marked on it, are actually correct for a change. Most inexpensive scopes, that's almost never the case. Yes, you can smell of it. But anyway, most of the numbers normally are just reference points. They don't normally correspond with the actual parallax-free settings. And this one actually did, which was a nice surprise. And here's an up-close look at the objective end. As you can see, it goes all the way down to 15 feet, which is very, very short distance, but excellent for air guns. Just like the other two turrets, it's very firm, but turns very easily. While I didn't film myself doing the box test on the rifle, I've done it over the span of the last couple of weeks. I did want to say it did track perfectly. I did the box test twice. I did it when I first got the gun zeroed, and then I also did it again at the end of 1,000 shots. That was 2 tins of pellets, so it's very easy for me to keep up with how many shots actually went through the gun. There's a look at the turret on the top. As you can read, it says 1/4 inch at 100 yards, 1 MOA. And it actually does track at about that distance. I did measure it. One of the features I really liked about the scope that you normally don't get with a small objective scope, this one has 32mm objective, is a nice field of view. This one you do, especially with the 2-7 magnification. Alright, and there's a good look at the mil-dot crosshair. And only someone who has ever tried to make a video like this can understand what a pain in the ass setting this particular little shot up is. It doesn't seem like it, but it really is. But you can see it's got a nice, fine crosshair with very distinct mil dots. The distance that I'm focused on right there, I'm setting on 5 power, and it's actually 25 meters. That's how far that fence is. So you can get a real good look at the resolution and stuff from that distance, but it's very, very clear. Alright, and if you're curious if this thing will return to point of impact, this group was shot when I first mounted the scope. I did 2 different box tests, was very careful to return it exactly where I started it each time. It passed the box test fine. There's 10 pellets in this group from 35 yards. And then 1,000 shots later, the very last 10 pellets in that 10 are back in this group. So that right there should let you know that this thing will in fact return to 0. Guys, one thing I would like to point out, as far as this scope or any other scope that you're going to mount on a spring rifle, make sure and keep up with your receipt, make sure and keep up with original packaging, and buy it from a reputable dealer. Spring rifles, guns, tear scopes all to pieces, especially if you have one of the Magnum springers. They can really wreak hell on the inside of these things, especially when you consider these things are built to retail for under $100 or right at $100. There's only so much you can beef this thing up at that price point. That being said, if you catch yourself normally shooting on 4 to 6 to maybe 8 power, Consider a 2 to 7 instead of a 4 to 16 or 6 to 24. When you start looking in the sub 200 price range for scopes, if you get a 6 to 24, it's going to suffer on the glass quality and what you're going to see through the scope. The tracking may be fine. You may have a crosshair that you like, but the glass quality is not going to be there. Don't get me wrong, this is a $100 scope. It doesn't have the same type of glass as a $500 scope. But because the magnification is not overly exaggerated, you don't see the flaws in it. It's a lot like watching the television show. You can only blow it up so much before it starts getting distorted. Scopes are the same way.